Hey, what's up, everybody? Jay Pounds here, back at you with your weekly rebuild video slash article. Today we're going to be talking kind of about just tanking in general. Tanking is a term I know all of you are familiar with and have heard throughout your fantasy careers, and as long as you've played fantasy football, and it's usually going to be a controversial term. I've been in leagues where if you tank, you know they'll kick you out. There's no tanking. You either try to be competitive and be stuck in the middle for the rest of your life, or you're not going to be in the league much anymore. Um, for me, I agree with tanking. We see it in every professional sport. All sports do it. Almost every team has tanked at some point, whether it be a full-on kind of tank or just one season. But it happens nonstop in sports. So why shouldn't it happen in fantasy sports? Especially here on Dynasty Owner, where you have a salary cap you're working with, and it's things are going to get tight some years, and you're going to have to do something like this. And maybe you have a gaping hole at running back, and you need to tank for Najee Harris next year. Something like that. And it's always going to happen. Nobody's exempt from it. You just kind of got to weather the storm when it happens. Um, you will have at all times, you're going to have some people that disagree with you tanking or not. Basically, it comes down to how you do it. If you go out and you trade and make smart, reasonable trades and trade all your producing talent right now away, but you're sitting with 4 or 5 solid high-end rookies and then a couple draft picks in the next 2 or 3 drafts, a couple extra draft picks in the next 2 or 3 drafts, nobody can get completely upset about that. But now if you have Calvin Ridley and Dalvin Cook and the rest of your team is junk, and you're not playing Calvin Ridley or Dalvin Cook so you can lose and get a higher pick, then yes, people are going to have problems with that, and as well would I. If you got the players, if you have the resources on your roster, you have to use them. Now, if you want to tank, get rid of those resources for resources that aren't going to help you win fantasy football games this season. The next thing I kind of want to talk about, which I just hit on a little bit there, is the different types of tanking. It's just there's the right way and the wrong way virtually to do it. There's multiple different ways you can consider yourself tanking, but really there's just a right way and a wrong way. And as I said, the right way, trade your studs away, get some good value in return. There's nothing wrong with trading let's say Ezekiel Elliott and his $15 million contract away right now for maybe let's pretend Sammy Watkins was on a 3-year deal at $9 million, for J.K. Dobbins and Sammy Watkins or something like that, where the salaries even out, you're eating some bad salary, giving the other owners some cap space, and in return you get yourself a nice young up and coming player, and then if you need to, you amnesty Sammy Watkins. But that's just one of the positive ways you can do it. And then the negative way is just not setting your lineup, playing Andy Isabella over DeAndre Hopkins, things like that. It's just not going to fly with people that are in these leagues. We're in the people that are in Dynasty Owner. We're here for the long haul. This is something we all want to do and have a fun league and stay competitive for years on years on years, to where you get that actual GM feel and how well can you build a team in year 10 of a Dynasty Owner format. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. And just nobody wants to have the Greg Williams of of Dynasty Owner, where you're just ruining everything, going an all-out blitz on 4th down when you should have the game won. But we'll save that conversation for another day. What I like to do with tanking and stuff like that, I try to decide before the season even starts, like, am I going to be competitive this year? Because if not, I'm just going to tank. I'm going to tank, try to get the best draft pick next year, and see how can I improve my team for the next year and be competing by that next year, instead of making it a 2 or 3 year 2 or 3 year process. And that's just something, nobody wants to lose for 3-4 years at a time. So I try to decide before the season, because if you either want to go all in or all out, if not, you're going to win a couple games at the beginning of the season. It's going to hurt your draft capital, and you just don't want to do that. When I am, in dynasty owners, I'm starting to figure out how the whole rebuild and the tanking stuff and the different strategies are working and everything. I think the smartest way to go about this would be you just trade away your players that are $10 million or more. And the way you do this is you find the top 3 contenders in your league, at least in your opinion, who you think the best 3 teams are, and you offer them these guys. Offer them all of your players that are produced. Don't offer them junk, but the players that are producing over $10 million, throw some deals out there and try to get rid of that big salary to somebody that's going to help this year. What it does for you is it frees up salary in the years to come, as well as you're probably going to get some young talent or a draft pick in return. And nobody ever complains about draft picks in Dynasty. That's really how you keep your team afloat in Dynasty Owner, from what I'm seeing, because of the salary cap. And I don't see a possible way to where you win without 3 players on the rookie deals, at least, from your starting and your bench. But I mean, I guess there might be a scenario or two where it happened, but it's highly unlikely. Your best bet is having a good veteran rookie ratio and just going from there. I also, after you trade your your expensive studs away, you trade your lower level players away, your lower level salaried players away. And what you do with that is you try to leave yourself 1 or 2. If you had Justin Jefferson on this roster, or on your roster this past season, you're not trading him unless you get blown away. Obviously, nobody's untouchable, especially when you're in a rebuild. But unless you're getting blown away, you're keeping up Justin Jefferson or a CeeDee Lamb, somebody that showed a lot of promise that's going to be in the league for a long time to come. Those are the type of players you want to keep and not let go of, unless somebody is absolutely overpaying you. We already touched on the neglectful tanker. That's just kind of my term for it. Like I said, it just ruins the league. It can cost somebody a playoff shot. Let's look at it that way here. If you're in week 10 and team Joe Blow is going up against Tim, and Tim and you are tied right now. Let's say you're both 5-5 and tied for the 6th seed in the playoffs. And here Tim gets to go against the neglectful tanker. So it's pretty much a no matter what, he's going to win, because this guy's not playing anybody that's producing. Instead of if he was playing somebody that had this young talent and stuff, them players can get hot sometimes in their rookie year. They might be a little bit of a long shot, but if it all comes together, it could win a week, and it won't cost you a playoff shot. As to where if Tim's getting a freebie that week, there's nothing you can do unless you win your game, obviously. But it's just not an advantage or a fair level of play for everybody. That's not what you want. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is the pros and cons of tanking. Basically, the pro, I came up with one major pro, and every different form of thinking I came about on this, it all led me back to the same thing, and that was you're just the pro of it is you're going to be bad enough to get some high-end talent on your team. If you were bad enough last year, you might have took CEH, but you also might have took Jonathan Taylor, and that's looking great. Or, you could have got Burrow. The future's bright for Burrow. So those are the kinds of picks that you want. You don't want to be picking in the 8th or 9th spot, because then that means in the 2nd and the 3rd, you're picking 8th or 9th there, and that's when the talent really starts to dwindle. And you want to be in the top half of each round. And just hopefully, you're paying attention to the rookie stuff from Nate, and you hit on your rookie picks. Another pro of tanking is you're just accumulating draft picks from trading all your players away and stuff like that. Draft picks, as I mentioned a little bit ago, they're just always going to be a positive in Dynasty. It's no different than the Seahawks trading for Jamal Adams. They gave away 2 first, 3rd, I want to say. I can't remember the exact trade, and they got to pay this guy a ton of money. They're gonna have to back the Brinks truck up for this guy this offseason because he's a free agent this coming offseason. So not only did they get rid of a ton of draft capital, but now they got a good portion of their salary cap going to a safety. So it's it's the same logic of thinking as you see in the pro sports. Draft picks are king. The negatives here are just it's the guessing game that fantasy is. It's not easy to hit on all your draft picks. It's actually pretty much almost impossible from what I've seen. There might be a couple years where you get all your rookie picks right, but in a startup you're going to miss on a few every single year. There's just no getting around it. So that's the biggest negative of tanking. It's not even a guarantee. Just because you're tanking and getting these high draft picks, it doesn't mean them players are going to work out. We've seen the Philadelphia 76ers do it, but it also seemed like the Sacramento Kings had been in a full-on rebuild for the last 20 years since Chris Webber and Mike Bibby were in the league, and they just never hit on their draft picks, so now they're still tanking. They're getting better now, but it's just not, the future doesn't look bright there. So the same thing can happen to you here in Dynasty Owner. Just because you got these draft picks doesn't mean you're going to be good in 2 years. You got to hit on your draft picks. You got to do your homework to hit on those draft picks. Injuries is another part to do with it. And honestly, injuries can hurt a tanker just as much as they can hurt a contender. And I say that because, if you're tanking and you get, you have an injury and the guy's hurt for, it hurts him and it affects him. Now, not just this year are you out, but you don't have the rest of the team to support that injury. So now not only did you just lose a stud, but now you got to wait another year to replace him. And hopefully you hit on that draft pick as well, which, as we just talked about, isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do some years, or some years, or even some rounds. It's not easy to do. It's just even the first round of redraft leagues, go look and see how many of them missed this year. It's crazy how much of a guessing game it can be sometimes. Last thing I want to talk about is handling free agency in the tank. Basically, there's multiple ways you can do this. You can ask anybody, and I'm sure you're going to get different answers from everybody. But for me, it's, if I'm tanking, I'm not picking Mike Davis up this year because he's not going to help me next year. Mike Davis had no shot at helping the following season. You want to get yourself a young wide receiver or a young running back that can help you for the next couple years. You don't waste your roster spaces on players that aren't going to help, basically. Like a Travis Fulgham this year would have been a great pickup. Even though he didn't pan out, he was a young wide receiver that was cheap, and he looked like he had a possible future with the team. Those are the kinds of players you want to load up on in free agency, not the Mike Davises of the world. Mike Davis, he could get a job next year, but it's highly unlikely, and he hasn't done much with what he's been given throughout his career, except for this season. That's all I got for you guys today. As you can hear my daughter yelling at me in the background. Wrapped it up just in time. Hang on, Pumpkin. Let me finish my video. She's a cutie. You want to say hi? Here, come here. Say hi. Say hello. Say hello. Figured I'd show you guys since she rudely interrupted the video. But good luck on your guys' 2021 chase for the ring. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. If you got any questions, feel free to ask. Thanks a lot, guys.